Argument passing methods, in the sense we know there are two types of arguments, actual arguments and formal arguments. The variables that follow a function call or a function definition are called the arguments. So, the variables in a function call are called actual arguments, the variables in a function definition are called formal arguments. So, there are two ways in which you can pass these arguments. One is using call by value, the other is using call by reference. Reference is just another name for address. So, we will see in detail how these functions are defined or how these methods are defined. Call by value. Here the values of the actual arguments are passed to the function. So, this is a normal way of passing an argument. You have a function, say sum, and you pass integer a and integer b as the arguments. Any change which is made to the formal parameters does not affect the actual parameters. So, here if you are calling in the function sum of a comma b and you are defining the function sum of c comma d, that a's value will be copied to c and b's value will be copied to d. Whatever changes you want to make, you make inside the function and you print the values there itself. No change that is made to the formal parameters will be seen in the actual parameters. You will understand this better when we see the example programs. What you have to remember here is, in call by value only a copy of the original value is sent to the function which is called. No change that is made in the function has any effect on the actual arguments. Whereas in call by reference we do not pass the value, but here we pass the address or the reference of the actual parameters to the called function. So, here any change which is made to the formal parameters is also affected in the actual arguments, because here we are manipulating the address of the variable and not its value. So, automatically when the address is affected, any value which is stored at that particular address will be automatically changed. So, here the modifications or the changes that are made are permanent. You will see its effect in both the called function and the calling function. Whereas in call by value only a copy of the variable is sent to the called function. You can make any changes you want over there, it will not be seen in the original value. So, we will see how these arguments work. So, this is an example program for call by value. In this program what we are doing is we are actually swapping the values of two variables. Say I am entering two values 5 and 7 for x and y. I want the values to change to 7 and 5 for the same variables. So, here one method I am passing call by value, another method by call by reference. So, according to the definition, when I use call by value, that x and y values should be changed only in the called function. It should not, its effect should not be seen in the main function. Whereas in call by reference, the effect should be permanent. It should be visible in both the called as well as the calling function. So, we will see how this is executed in C. So, here I am declaring the variables and I am declaring the function also. The name of my function is change. I am having two integer variables and I am printing enter x and y value. I am scanning the values 3 and 4 for x and y. So, now x holds 3 and y holds 4. Next I am calling this change function. So, that is the function call. So, what happens when the compiler sees this statement? Immediately the control will go to this change of x comma y. So, the control will go to this particular function and it will check whether two integer variables have been sent over here, because there are two integer variables declared here. So, the x will be copied to a and the y will be copied to b. So, now x is having the value 3 and y is having the value 4. A will become 3 and y will become 4. So, here I am having this integer k, which is a local variable. I want to interchange the value. So, that this is the logic for interchanging. The value of a is sent to k, b is sent to a, and again the value of a I am copying it to b. So, in this way if you see, the value of a is changed to 4 and the value of b is changed to 3. So, the values have been interchanged over here, and here if you see I am printing the values in the change function itself. I am not exactly returning any function. So, in change when I am printing the value of x is 4 and the value of y is 3. So, here if you see, the value of b and a have been swapped, that is they have been interchanged. So, these values I am printing them here in the change function itself, because the ultimate aim of my program is to indicate that in the change function the values are swapped, but in the main function the values remain the same. So, the printf statement I am giving in the change function itself. So, the output will appear like this: x is equal to 4 and y is equal to 3. because that is how I am printing it here. X is equal to percentage d, y is equal to percentage d, and I am printing the values a and b. I am using a and b here because here the variables a and b are only declared. So, what happens after this change function is printed? Now, control has to get back to the main function. So, there is no return statement here to explicitly return the control. So, only when this closing brace is encountered, the compiler understands that okay, now the function is over, I have to get back to the function which called it. So, in this case, as soon as the closing brace is encountered, we come to this function. So, here if you see, I am again having a printf statement, and here I am printing in main x is equal to percentage d and y is equal to percentage d x and y. So, the output will appear like this: x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 4. Though the values have been swapped in that function change, and though the function has been called over here, whatever changes were made in that function change is visible only to that function. So, that is the reason the values have been printed there itself. There is no modification or no effect on these actual arguments. So, that is the difference between these two: x is equal to 3 and y is equal to 4. And here I am closing this main function with the return 0 statement. It is not a must, you can have that statement or you can close that statement, there is no difference. So, this is how a call by value program is executed. You simply have to enter the values and call the function as usual. A copy of the value goes to the calling function. Whatever change is made over there remains over there. It does not have any effect on this main actual arguments. So, next we move over to the call by reference program. So, the same program I am going to execute, but with call by reference, that is I am going to pass the address of the variable. Now, here if you see, you will see that whatever change is made in the calling function will have its effect on the called function also. So, here again I am declaring the main function integer x y, and here if you see the change function, it is int star. That means I am passing the pointer variable. Now, star or asterisk indicates a pointer. So, in change, this is the first difference between call by value and call by reference. In the function declaration itself, there we had passed only int and int, whereas here we are passing pointer variables as the arguments. Now, what is a pointer? It is something that holds the value of an address. So, from that itself it is clear that here we are passing the address of a variable. To access its value, we have to use the pointer variable. So, this is the first difference between the call by value and the call by reference. Then we are entering the two values x and y. We are scanning the values. I am giving the same values 3 and 4, and I am executing this function called change of x and y. Again here if you see, there is a difference, ampersand x and ampersand y I am passing. This ampersand is nothing but the address operator. That means I am passing here the address of x and the address of y. So, here if you see, the variables 3 and 4 have been written like this. So, this is the address at which the first variable x is held, and this is the address at which the variable y is held. So, when the change function is executed, we will see that these values are swapped. So, in this call by reference, the first difference was in the declaration of this change function, where we are passing pointer variables, and while making the function call, again we are passing the address of the two variables rather than simply the value. So, that is the second difference. So, what are we actually passing over here? Here if you see, in this change function, you have integer pointer variable a, integer pointer variable b. So, this is equivalent to the x and y which was passed over there. So, there we are passing the address x and address y, and here we are passing pointer variable a and pointer variable b. So, the address that is passed over there, to access its value, we need these two pointer variables. So, this pointer a will take the value which is stored at the address x, and pointer b will take the value which is stored at the address y. So, that is why we are using this asterisk symbol over here, or it is also called the pointer symbol. So, here I have to declare again a pointer variable. I cannot simply use a variable because my values are all in pointer variables. So, pointer k, the same operation is done again, only thing is the introduction of this pointer variable. So, the value of a I am assigning to k, the value of b to a, and the value of k to b. So, the values have been swapped over here. So, I am printing the value again in change, x is equal to the value held at the address a, y is equal to the value held at the address b. So, here if you see, the values have been swapped, and again I am not returning any value over here. So, only when the compiler sees this closing braces, it will identify that this function's execution is over, the work is done. So, we will return the control to the calling function. So, when the control is returned to the calling function, all the changes that were made in that change function will be affected over here. That is why here in the print function, if you see, in main x is equal to %d, y is equal to %d, the same x and y I am printing, the values appear changed. The values here is 3 and 4, but the values that are there in the main function is 4 and 3. The values have been swapped. So, in this diagram also I am showing how the values have been swapped. 3 has come to where 4 was and 4 has gone to the place where 3 was. How is it possible? That is because the 65550 and 65552, it is only an example of the memory location. Here both of them are integer variables, so they occupy only 2 bytes. So, the first variable is stored at 0 and the second variable is stored at the place 2. So, here I am passing this address only here in the change function. So, change of ampersand x means this address would have been passed. Change of ampersand y means this address would have been passed. And as soon as this function call is indicated, when control passes over here, A will be holding the address, B will be holding the address. So, to access their value only, we are using the symbol star. So, 65550 is the address, the value there was 3, 65552 is the address, the value there was 4. So, that is why using those values they are swapping this values again. So, this is the difference between call by value and call by reference. In call by value you do not have any ampersand symbol or pointer symbol, you are simply passing the copy of a value to the calling function, to the function which is called, and you are swapping it. All that happens ends over there. In the main function there is no change, whereas in call by reference, since you are passing the address and you are using the pointer variable to access the value at that address, any change that is made to that value at that particular address will be permanent, because the address is a permanent location for a variable. That is the reason whatever change is made in the called function has its effect on the calling function. So, with these two example programs, it has been indicated that changes which are made in call by reference are permanent, whereas in call by value they are temporary.